Hello everybody, and thanks for coming to this presentation about transparent future. This is Open Pharma's research and investigations into 3 systems of author identification. At the initial workshop of Open Pharma, the group identified these 3 initiatives to have the potential to improve the way that we publish industry-sponsored research. We're going to take a few minutes to go through each one in turn. There's 3 items that we've chosen from actually quite a large number of separate projects and initiatives that could have been relevant here. These 3 technical solutions we believe could offer a solution to transparency issues, in particular in medical publishing. We're going to talk about ORCiD, a persistent digital identifier for researchers, and Convey, a platform to simplify the disclosure process, and CRediT, a taxonomy for contributorship. Firstly, let's look at ORCiD. Now, I'm not going to go into much detail about ORCiD, other than to say that it's a persistent digital identifier, like a passport number, that distinguishes between researchers. Integration into workflows such as manuscript and grant submission supports automated linkage between researchers and institutions. And if you want to know more, there's a detailed interview by Josh Brown from ORCiD on the NetworkPharma TV YouTube channel, posted in May 2017. Also, the ORCiD website news section is very good for rolling updates on the progress of ORCiD as it strives to enable transparent and trustworthy connections between researchers, their contributions and affiliations. The ORCiD community has continued to grow, and now it has over 5 million active IDs and 33 million works are connected. Of relevance to those of us who are working to support industry, over 7,000 journals are collecting ORCiD IDs from corresponding authors through the major manuscript submission systems, and over 60 publishers have now signed the open letter requiring ORCiD IDs. Indeed, 75% of new ORCiD registrations are driven by the requirements of the manuscript submission process. So what's the relevance to us supporting Pharma? After identifying ORCiD as an initiative of interest to Open Pharma, we approached ORCiD and were able to welcome Laura Paglione, the Director of Strategic Initiatives at ORCiD, into the group. Through the workstream meetings, we had a lot of useful discussions about the potential value of ORCiD to Pharma, resulting in the development of a value proposition and educational materials such as you see here to be shared with pharma companies. The main benefits of ORCiD, as Open Pharma sees it, are in the boxes below, where the benefits to individuals on the left in blue and for organisations on the right in red. Firstly, on the left, it solves the problem of researchers with the same name being confused with one another. Secondly, it automatically compiles a research CV of papers, data, code and other research materials by a particular researcher. Thirdly, it makes outputs more discoverable in specific research fields because the identifier can be used as a search term. And this can help to inform, if, for example, when externally sponsored research has been published. On the right-hand side, from the institutional perspective, it provides an API, an application programming interface, that can be used to report on company-wide publications. Member APIs are available for more detailed queries. Secondly, it also documents the collaboration and funding histories of individual researchers. And thirdly, it makes it easier for authors to list their affiliation consistently. Laura subsequently visited several pharma companies to discuss the benefits of ORCiD. We have also been in discussions with the pharma technology solution providers at Envision, PubSub and PubStrat to explore if and how they intend to integrate ORCiD into their systems. Again, on the industry side, GSK Vaccines have conducted a pilot study, and that demonstrated how to engage with internal pharma authors. This was led by Santosh Mysore and Christine van der Linden, part of the Open Pharma group. We're pleased to say that this work was rewarded with one of the poster prizes at the 2018 European meeting of ISMAP. 517 authors employed by GSK Vaccines had been approached to participate. Of these, 346, that's 67%, had registered with ORCiD within the 6 months of this pilot study and this time point. The internal authors provided positive feedback about their experience, and only 22, that's 6%, reported any technical issues, and they were all easily resolved by Santosh and the team. Now, GSK is requesting that external authors also register with ORCiD, and this initiative has been positively received externally too. Indeed, other pharma companies are looking at how they can learn from this project and implement similar initiatives. We'd encourage you to do the same in your organisation and work with your clients and technology providers to explore how ORCiD could be built into their workflows. If you'd like more information about the methods used in this pilot study, you can find the ISMAP poster as well as the educational material you can see on screen at healthsciencelive.com. The educational material is also available free to use from the Open Pharma blog site. Next, we're going to talk about CRediT. This is short for the Contributor Roles Taxonomy. This is a high-level taxonomy used to represent the roles typically played by contributors to scientific output. I'd like to thank Liz Allen, Director of Strategic Initiatives at F1000, for covering CRediT with us and for providing direction on these slides. CRediT grew from a realization that conventions for describing and listing authors are increasingly outdated and fail to represent the contributions that researchers make to the work. There is also growing interest amongst researchers, funding agencies, academic institutions, editors and publishers in increasing both the transparency and accessibility of research contributions. You can read more about the history of CRediT on the CASRO website. In brief, it began in mid-2012 when the Wellcome Trust and Harvard University co-hosted a workshop to bring together members of the academic, publishing and funder communities interested in exploring alternative contributorship and attribution models. Out of this workshop and subsequent work came a 14-role taxonomy. Again, I'm not going to cover this in detail, but these terms capture the roles of authors, supporting staff and supervisors in the development of research. They can be used in a contributorship model in the acknowledgements. So just to clarify, it's not just for authors, it's for people who have contributed who don't count as authors. So some roles, such as supervision and funding acquisition, are inconsistent with the ICJME recommendations for authorship. So their use needs to be clearly understood. So why use CRediT? There are many potential benefits of CRediT. I'm not going to read these out. I just want to highlight the top 3 here that could be particularly useful for medical publication professionals. Firstly, it can be used to confirm the roles of individuals to help with order of authors, thereby reducing the likelihood of disputes. Secondly, if adopted, it could help with adherence to our authorship and contributorship models. Could it be implemented as a practical tool to support our contributorship model in the next update to the GPP guidelines? Perhaps it may appear in author contracts. We'll have to see. Finally, and important for the future, it gives visibility, recognition and transparency responsibility to those who are not authors. With many people contributing to clinical trials, this is especially relevant in pharma, and in particular for medical publications professionals. It's definitely growing. It's being adopted by lots of publishers, as you'll see on the screen here, including many in the medical space, including the Manuscript Submission Systems 2. Editorial Manager from Aries stands out. Funders such as the Wellcome Trust and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation are also choosing platforms that use CRediT. Indeed, research on the implementation of CRediT, including after adoption by PLOS, is starting to appear. And this gives us insight into the roles performed by the authors of manuscripts based on their order on the byline. There is significant interest in CRediT and ongoing initiatives to raise awareness of it. By including it in manuscript metadata, organisations such as ORCiD and Crossref will be able to link the specific contributions of researchers and their work and their research records. Which leads us to the question, should we be using CRediT as a standard in our submissions of industry-sponsored research to define the contributions of the authors, give credit to those who don't meet the authorship criteria, and be more transparent about the role of professional medical writers? The third initiative of interest was Convey, which seeks to simplify the disclosure process. Heather Pierce, Senior Director and Regulatory Counsel at the American Association of Medical Colleges, AAMC, joined us for discussions on this workstream and has kept us up to date with the initiative. And again, thank you to her for some of the content here and direction. Convey is a global disclosure system. It enables one-time data entry for multiple disclosure needs and ensures a standard set of data and streamlined process to aid eliminating errors and oversight. Again, I'm not going to go into the great detail other than to say it's a very simple 4-step process following the addition of your disclosure data. On first submission of disclosure data, you create a free account and add the disclosure information based on the policy and instructions of the requesting organisation. You're going to have to do that anyway when you're submitting to the journal. You then enter your financial interest and answer any disclosure-specific additional questions before you review your submission and hit send. The process then becomes more streamlined when you receive a subsequent request because you already have your disclosure information stored in your account. You can request a very good demo of the system from the Convey website. So, how can Convey help the pharmaceutical industry? Disclosures are important. It can help to avoid stories such as this that appeared in the New York Times in September 2018. One of the world's top breast cancer doctors, Dr. Jose Baselga, the Chief Medical Officer at Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center in the USA, failed to disclose millions of dollars in payments from drug and healthcare companies in recent years, omitting his financial ties from dozens of research articles in prestigious publications like the New England Journal of Medicine and the Lancet. This was uncovered by ProPublica, the non-profit investigative journalism organisation, and a week or so later resulted in the resignation of Dr. Baselga. I wonder how many more examples like this there are out there. In his resignation letter, Dr. Baselga said that, "It is my hope that this situation will inspire a doubling down on transparency in our field," adding that he hoped the medical community would work together to develop a more standardised system for reporting industry ties. How can Convey help with this? Meanwhile, a letter by Jeffrey Drazen, Editor-in-Chief of the New England Journal of Medicine, also published in the New York Times, confirmed that it will be using Convey. In fact, NEJM had already been working with the AAMC on a pilot study of Convey for some time. One of several pilot studies, including also at Harvard Medical School. Now, several institutions have announced that they will use the system. We also understand that the AAMC is working with the ICMGE to explore how it could be rolled out across their member journals. This will have implications on the way we as medical publication professionals work with authors of industry-sponsored research. You should be factoring education around Convey into your communications with academic and pharma authors and preparing to build this author step into your processes and workflows. I'd like to thank Heather Pierce for keeping us up to date with developments around Convey, and we watch with interest to see how it develops further. Wrapping up, Open Pharma will continue to explore how initiatives such as these could benefit pharma publishing. Others will no doubt emerge, and through linkage between them, they can help drive greater transparency and accessibility of research and efficiency in scholarly publishing. We will continue to support and educate pharma with a view to involving those who are interested in the adoption of open science for the benefit of all. Thank you. I'll leave you with details of how to access some of the resources that I've mentioned at Orchid, through NetworkPharma TV, on our Open Pharma blog, and also through Health Science Live, where you can find the GSK example. The Convey website has some materials, and also the CASRAE site has some materials about CRediT. Thank you.